Oh,
yeah.
Hi, we are live. We are live.
We think.
Hi, we are. It says we are. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Thoroughly Enjoyed Books. I've got some guests with me today again. Welcome to the Booktube Oldies live show. I can hear somebody's background noise. That might just because I've got headphones in. Today I am joined by Charlie from CharleyReads, Jack from Tomes and Travel, and Kitty G. So I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about when you started BookTube, and what are the main features of your channel. And we'll go with Charlie, Jack, then Caitlin.
Okay, so I think I started 2011, 2010 maybe. I saw a couple of videos and I was like, I want to do that. So I did it. And because I had very outspoken opinions on Twilight, still do. And that video just blew up and I was like, okay, I'll do this then. People actually want to hear me talk about the books I read, which was the weirdest realization for me.
Fantastic. Jack, you still with us? Maybe?
Yes, but the internet's going a bit slow.
Oh, no.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Pedal faster. Come on.
Oh, no. You can hear me now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's the internet, not me. Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jack. My channel is Tomes and Travel. I started videos in about May 2011, so it's been about 9 years now. I've kind of been a bit on and off with making videos, so I'm only kind of getting back into them now. So yeah, it's like the 9-year anniversary, so I feel like really old. I started when I was 13, so not sure if 13-year-olds meant to have channels. But anyway, yeah.
I think you're still
but like nowadays, like there's like 5-year-olds. Yeah.
I remember being
there's
super
like little kids now with
protective
videos,
over you,
so it's yeah. But yeah, I'm back now, and I'm making videos again. So yeah.
Fab.
Awesome. So I'm Caitlin, aka Kitty G is my channel. I started, I think, around 2013, like end of 2013. So yeah, 7-ish years almost. I've been pretty consistent over those 7 years. I haven't really taken a break. So my channel's kind of evolved in that time. It's mainly focused on science fiction and fantasy. That's definitely my niche. So yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Fab. So I've known all of you since at least 2013, I think. Me and Caitlin met at uni and lived together for a while at uni as well.
We did.
And Jack and Charlie, I've known you guys since 2012 as well. So everybody here I've known for a really, really long time. So that'll make this quite an interesting chat, I think. Because we've kind of
mad when you think about it like that. It's mad when you think about it in like that massive chunk of time. You don't realise how long it's been.
Yeah.
It feels like yesterday.
I know, right?
So weird.
It was literally a third of my life ago. It was nearly half of Jack's life ago.
Stop! Oh my god. Okay, now I feel old.
So let's start off with a question. So obviously, starting off with a question about where it all began. How did you discover BookTube and what made you start making videos? So I know a couple of you said it in your introductions anyway, but we'll just do it in any order that you want. Whoever wants to start talking first, you don't have to go in a circle.
I think I discovered BookTube as a result of just watching other stuff on YouTube. Like my partner at the time was very into gaming stuff on YouTube, and I wasn't that into it, but I watched it with him, and then I kept getting recommended like book reviews along the side, and I was like, what is this? So I started watching, and it was the time where like YA was massive, and that, well, it still is, but like that was all there was. There was nothing else really out there, and it was very YA dominated. So I think like the first few people I started watching were like Poland Banana and things like that. because they were just the biggest channels at the time. So I think that's where it started for me, but I quickly realized that wasn't necessarily the niche I liked that much. So then I thought, you know what, I can kind of do this. I got the technology to do it when I went to uni, and I thought it's fun to chat about books. I didn't have many like real life friends who read very much. I had like one or two, but that was kind of it, not enough to like start my own book club or anything. So I sort of thought Booktube would just be this fun way to chat about books, and just decided I'd make some videos, which are still there if you want to go see them. Horrible.
Oh, it's me. Oh God.
You want to?
God.
You need like a
I took
poke
myself by
button so you can like poke at people or something,
I
don't
need
you?
to be reminded
You're just like, wake
of
up.
the answer as well.
Well, I discovered Booktube, I think, just from looking at, trying to find if there were reviews of stuff on YouTube, like searching for like book reviews, because I wanted to find out what books were recommended. I was on sort of Goodreads and stuff like that, but I was like, okay, well, YouTube. So I literally just through chance search, I was like, oh, okay, that's the thing, cool. And happened that the guy I was with at the time was a like in college for media, so he helped me set up all the tech, and then I just decided to rant about Twilight, and here I am. Still ranting about Twilight, but not as often. It's definitely been like sporadic, but I wanted to voice my opinion, because I still truly believe that my opinion matters, even though I've been told so many times that it doesn't.
I think most of us started around the time of 50 Shades of Grey as well, didn't we? I think that kind of,
Yeah.
that was a big thing back in the early days. It's not what started me. I think Anna and the French Kiss was like the first review I watched on YouTube, because I'd seen it on Goodreads, and I just typed into YouTube one day book review for Anna and the French Kiss or something, just to see if it was a thing. And the Booktubinator at the time, who I found a video from him recently on my channel, was like the biggest booktuber. He had like 1,000 subscribers at his peak, and that was a massive deal. So I got in through watching him, and then it must have been recommended in his video, Charlie's 50 Shades of Grey review.
I was just thinking, I was trying to see if I could find it to see how many.
Oh, I watched
yes,
it
Louis.
recently. Oh
gosh, I'm scrolling.
Yeah, somebody else when I started watching was around the 50 Shades time. So that was like the birth of Booktube, I think. And then I just needed an outlet to like talk about books with people. So that's why I started.
Yeah, so I actually was discovered, I knew another person who started Booktube called Georgina. Her channel was British Biblioholic. So I kind of was introduced to Booktube from another Booktuber rather than finding it myself. And then I knew that I didn't really know anyone in real life that talked about books. I thought I'll just start making videos and meeting people. I hope the internet's still working because it's really slow. Yeah, I just kind of started from there in 2011 when I was really young and small and 13. And I've just continued, really. I've been a bit on and off, as I said. It's kind of hard to keep a consistent schedule sometimes. But it's really fun when I do get to make videos. And I keep making them because I like the discussions and the interactions, obviously talking to people about books and getting involved in discussions and that kind of thing. So, yeah. Okay.
You were such a baby as well back then.
I was really insane. Like, I watched some of the videos back and I was really weird. So I think people were just subscribing because I was entertaining rather than actually informative. I don't think I knew what I was talking about.
No, you definitely.
You read so much.
Yeah. And you
like,
had.
I was always so impressed when you did it. Like, go on bed.
I think I didn't realise you were younger than my sister until like quite recently. And it kind of blew my mind because I always thought that you were quite a bit older than her and closer to my age. So I think you did really well. I think you were really
I watched the old videos back and I look really young.
You do. You look young now, but then again, we were all a bit younger. So,
Yeah.
oh, don't be ashamed of it. So our next question. Some of us have mentioned them already, but who were some creators you enjoyed, and are they still around now?
Ooh. This is where I
think
blind
for
on
me,
every
like I
single
said,
name.
obviously Georgina from British. So I think she was called Book Addict 2011 at the time, and then she created a new channel called British Biblioholic, which is the one she has now. Unfortunately, she's not around, but obviously she was the person who introduced me to Booktube, so I have a lot to thank for that. I know everyone's probably going to say Priscilla from the Readables, but she's like the Booktube legend, in my opinion. Like, she was the best. I loved the content of what she was saying. It was really, I could just like believe what she was saying. She wasn't lying. I'm not saying other booktubers lie, but I just feel like she was very genuine. The graphics were great, and I just really loved the videos. Obviously, she's not making booktube videos at the moment. She does have another channel called From Sea to Stars. It's like an art channel, which is really interesting too. Like, I'm not really an artist, but like, it's fun to watch her videos. So both of those two were the ones I always watched. Like, I would watch every video they uploaded. I know now we have so many subscriptions that we can't watch everyone. We have to kind of pick and choose. But like back in the day, I used to watch like most people that I subscribed to. Now it's obviously a bit different. But those two were like the highlights, I suppose. Like, obviously I enjoyed watching all your videos too. But like, yeah, they were the best ones in my opinion.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think the Readables was great, and I was at the time like doing a graphic design degree, and she was a graphic designer, and I was like, oh my god, she's got the best channel ever. Loved her videos. But I mean, I quickly realized that a lot of what was on Booktube wasn't necessarily what I wanted. So I think one of the first people who I started watching who read similar stuff to me was probably Elizabeth from Books and Pieces, who is still around. She still makes quite a few videos, and I think she started very similar kind of time to me, maybe a bit before, and it's changed a lot in the time we've been on Booktube. So I think I'm not subscribed to many people from back in 2013 now. Either they've kind of taken a break, or I've gone off what they're reading, I suppose, like differing reading tastes. So yeah, there's not too many that I can think of off the top of my head really who I religiously watched back in the day.
I just want to ask people in the comments as well to like tell us any booktubers that you remember back from the day, because we've got Amber, who was one of the first people that I ever subscribed to, and she's still making videos and she's still fantastic. So let us know in the comments as well, answer these questions and we'll highlight some of them. I've obviously mentioned already some of the people I watched first. So the Booktubinator, Charlie, obviously, who we've got here, and Jack. They were some of the early, like, you're my OG crew. And then I didn't realize until recently how many people are still making videos. I recently got access to my very first Booktube channel, Sharon the Bookshelf, where my videos from 2012 are. Unfortunately, my very first video is not on there. And I was just looking through the subscriptions, and there was still a lot of people coming through the subscriptions. People I'd completely forgotten about. And obviously, I'd not been on that channel since January 2013. So these are people who've obviously been around for a while. People like Lizzie Books. I don't know if she's...
Oh, love her.
And then Ariel was like one of the very first Booktube friends I ever had, back when they all had the same amount of subscribers. The fact that Jessie the Reader had commented on like every one of my videos on this channel, and I'm like, yeah, he doesn't even like remember me anymore. So things like that I just find quite amusing. And then also, I agree with Shannon here. Sana, she must have been one of the very, very first people that I watched, because I think the people I've been subscribed to on just YouTube YouTube in general for the longest are like Lex and Rosianna. And they always talked a lot about books as well, even though they've never necessarily been booktubers. Oh, somebody said a Lizzie Books came back for a bit. Oh yeah, Booktube News. Does anyone remember Booktube News?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. I was going to say it was like a weekly thing, and I couldn't remember what it was called. But yeah, let's get that started again.
Yes.
Did anybody else need to answer this question?
I'm just looking through it, like people who I like used to watch so much. Like I try to still watch, but obviously some people aren't uploading as much for whatever reason. And it's like, oh my god, where have they all gone? Oh, see, so many of the channels I'm subscribed to are like people's old channels.
A lot of people have had more
Yeah,
channels, I've realised recently.
Yeah, and I think I'm subscribed to every single version of every single one. I don't know how to unsubscribe. I'm like, I shall never.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, definitely Priscilla was the one that sort of opened my eyes to kind of see that it could be more professional. Like this could actually be like a thing. It was like, oh, okay, this isn't just some kids talking about books. Like we could actually do something with this and work with publishers and actually, go somewhere. We could do this. Like it's cool.
Esme's just commented about Sasha from A Book Utopia, who I always forget, even though I think they still make videos, just not as frequently. But it's just reminded me about Ben. And I've completely forgotten what Ben's channel was, but he was such like a powerhouse back then. He was the one who was organising all the meetups, and I went to an event at the YouTube headquarters back in 2014, and we all met up there, which was really, really fun. So those two were massive. But yeah, I think Sasha's still making videos. Esme can let us know that. Okay, but what you were saying, Charlie, about it being professional kind of leads us into the next question, which is, did you have any expectations of BookTube, and what did you hope to gain?
Well, I'll carry on from that bit. I'll swing into the next bit. When I first started, I just wanted to Benjamin of Times. Yes.
I remember calling Benjamin off to me because I couldn't pronounce anything.
I love it. But yeah, I didn't really have any expectations. I thought I'd send it to a few friends and it would be a bit of a laugh. But I think once I saw other booktubers stepping up their game, it made me step up my game. And then once I sort of was at a point where I could afford to go to trips to London to go to events, I was like, I'm going to push harder to do this, and maybe I could get some experience in publishing, which is something that I wanted to do like forever. So it was my way of sort of like, could this be a way in? I mean, it wasn't, but it
you went and had a baby instead.
I had a baby, and now the baby is grown up, so I might have more chances now. So that's cool. Where I had a cat just jump out my window and it wasn't my cat.
Should I go next?
Yeah, you actually did get a job in publishing eventually.
Yeah. I mean, I work in publishing.
I can do it.
Still do, so it obviously worked out. But I didn't go into BookTube with any idea that it might eventually lead to some sort of career in publishing. I think I didn't have many expectations from it because I think it wasn't a career at the time we all started for anyone, even the big channels. It still wasn't a career for them. It was just something that they were kind of getting more successful at. So I think when I started, it was very much less, I just want to have fun with like people I meet on the internet chatting about books. And there was no real kind of end goal. it wasn't even the same as like blogs back in the day have always sort of had review copies sent to them. That's always been a thing that bloggers have had for a long time before BookTube. And that wasn't really a thing when we started, I don't think. It was just kind of trickling in here and there. And when I got my first email from a publisher and they reached out to me and they were like, would you like a book? I was like, what? I've made it, this is it. I'm done. So I think it didn't have any expectation at all. And everything that I got out of it was kind of like a perk for me, really.
I think for me, I didn't really have any expectations because there wasn't really like an established community. So it was hard to kind of expect anything. Like people just filmed their own videos and had fun with it. So it was mainly just about making friends and talking to people about books.
What it should be about.
I did get review copies, like you were saying, like it was really exciting when you got like the first email, and then I think I just got like loads of books like all in one go sometimes, and they just randomly send them to me like as soon as they have my address, and that was just insane because I did not expect that to happen, and I actually had to like refuse copies sometimes because they were sending like way too many. It's obviously great that they were doing that, but they were sending like so many books, and I didn't expect to be doing those kind of reviews for publishers when I started. Like I didn't even think that was a thing. So that was like completely unexpected when they asked about that. But like it was mainly just about making friends, talking about books, and being kind of casual and relaxed about it, not having any expectations or pressure really. I think it's possible that there's a bit more pressure now with BookTube. I think because there's more BookTubers, you kind of have to try and stand out maybe. Not sure really if that's true or not, but I definitely find that in the day it was just very kind of casual. You just did your own thing and didn't put any pressure on yourself or have any expectations. Yeah.
I actually really like that point because I was just thinking the other day about how relieved I am that I don't get review copies anymore. And I think I stopped accepting them quite a while ago when I was at uni because I was just getting sent them unsolicited. And there was a time when you were just getting like the second or the third book in a series that you'd shown no interest, that you had never read. You weren't given the first book or anything, to go on, and it just got really intense. And to this day, I still haven't got rid of a lot of those books. But I think since I started my new channel, I've not requested anything because I'm not interested. I'm in a position now where I'm not saying I wasn't in a position then, but in a position now where if I want a book, I will buy it. I can do that without having to worry about anything. But the fact that I've only had 2 people approach me in the last year has been such a relief because I don't feel like I have to turn anybody down, which was always horrible. But also I feel like I don't have this massive backlog of promises that I can't keep. So now I just focus on the books that I want to read when I want to read them, and it's a lot nicer. But yeah, I never expected to get as many books back then as I did, and I think like 2012 to 2014, when BookTube had just started, I think publishers kind of left on it as this new way of getting books out there. Let's just give as many books away as we can, kind of thing. So it's definitely something I didn't expect. And not something I ever hoped to gain. But I had a conversation with my dad recently about my YouTube channel, and he said to me, Char, I really wish that you'd stuck with that whole YouTube thing because you could have been a millionaire by now. And I was like, no, that's never why I did it. That's not the case. I don't even think the big booktubers, like the big Jessie, Christine, I don't think they're even that rich. No. But I don't know why he expected that, but I definitely didn't. And that was never anything. Maybe to have had it as like a bit of side income maybe would have been nice. But it's never been about that for me, and it never will be. Especially with how
I think my profits from the channel has been all of about 60p. Like it's ridiculous. Like, and I didn't necessarily care about that. I wanted to use it as a way to meet new people who liked books and because wouldn't it be so cool if you could use your platform to meet other people like you around the world? Like, that's awesome. Like, why not? And and plus people can totally tell. Like, I think looking back on some of my reviews, I think I could tell when I was reviewing something that was either on a time limit or that I really didn't want to read. You could see I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't take it in. I didn't absorb it. Whereas now when I read a book, I do it because I love reading and not because I feel pressured by a company to do it, which sucked. Capitalism.
And sometimes as well, I used to get review requests from individual authors, like independent authors, and I found that even worse, rejecting them, because I knew how much they needed the support, but I just couldn't read their books. I just didn't have the time, or I wasn't interested in them, and it was just very difficult with that to say no. Whereas obviously with publishing houses, they have a lot of people they can approach, and I didn't feel as bad rejecting them. But independent authors, it's like I didn't want to do that, but I kind of had to.
I still get loads of requests from indie self-published, because I judge for a self-published competition, so I get a lot of requests, and it's the worst feeling having to say to someone I'm really sorry, but your book just does not sound like it's going to work for me, and you have to base that just off a blurb and a cover, and you're like, it could be amazing, but I have no capacity for it. I'm one person.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with Rosie from CharleyReads recently, and she was saying about how she would never accept books from indie publishers because then they're getting her address and you actually don't have any idea who they are. They're not being filtered through a company or anything. But I started saying to independent publishers, look, I can't guarantee that I'll get your book, but if you want to send me an ebook version, then it's saving the space. It's not as daunting. You genuinely forget about it because you can't see it. But it's also a cheaper way for them to get their book out. And then if you were interested at some point, there's still that sharing thing. So that quite worked for me. But I never liked accepting from indies anywhere for that reason.
I have a postal address that's not my address, so we're okay.
So I'm pretty sure that my old address is still getting my books. So whatever they're getting, they're having a treat.
I would love to go back to some of my old flats. Caitlin, I'd love to go back to our house and see how many books get delivered there, because there must still be some that get delivered there.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, did anybody have anything else they wanted to add to that question?
No.
Good. Okay. So the next one we've vaguely covered anyway, but we can go into a bit more depth with is, what did you not expect from Booktube?
So many things. I literally have loads for this because I don't think any of us expected anything from it, like we just said. So, I mean, my job is literally, I got that because of Booktube. I did a degree in graphic design and I started making Booktube videos at the same time as I started that degree. And throughout doing my degree, I decided I did not want to be a graphic designer and it was not going to be the path I was going to take. And I got more and more into doing Booktube videos, the community, publishing houses. I had way more connections with them. And I was like, wow, this is something I'd really like to do. And I ended up getting work experience because of my Booktube channel, because I contacted a publicist who I got books from and was like, hey, have you got any work experience going? And they were like, yeah, come in. So I was like, brilliant. And I ended up working for Hachette in London for about a year doing temp jobs. I did lots of temping around their building for a good long time, sort of between university and getting my first proper job. And then I went into law and academic publishing, which is what I do now, in a small independent publishing house. So yeah, it wasn't quite what I expected at all. I mean, I thought I was going to be a graphic designer all my life and then realized that wasn't going to be my thing. So that was one massive plus, which I never saw coming. But then I think there's all the other things like friends that you made through the internet that you never would have met or stumbled across. I've been to loads of conventions, which I wouldn't have gone to. Definitely, like, science fiction and fantasy has lots of conventions, but I wouldn't have known about them without Booktube. I've been abroad to conventions and met up with people internationally, which has been amazing. Obviously, we did UK meetups. We did some when we were up at uni, and we did some in London and places as well. So that was great to meet lots of people. I did make some money off YouTube at one point. That was good. Not an awful lot, but yeah, that was definitely something. I don't have ads on my videos now because ads annoy me immensely. But I did for about a year, I think. And I actually made a decent chunk of money from it, which was nice. A little side thing. And then just all the books. And I've ended up judging competitions because of it. There's so many things. Like, I could go on and on, but I feel like I'm rambling now. So you guys should take over.
And ramble as much as you want.
Is there a time limit for this live show? Are we going to run out?
I've got up until 9:30.
Excellent.
Yeah, but you've always been really involved with like the sci-fi fantasy part, Caitlin. Like, do you think being part of that niche helped you with being involved and starting so early in that particular genre?
100%. I mean, Booktube is like a niche of sort of YouTube, and like once you find it, there's a lot out there, but it is definitely still a niche compared to sort of the mainstream stuff. Like, you never see Booktubers trending very often, you know, unless something massively viral has happened. But yeah, I think Booktube SFF is what I kind of like to go by. You know, the sort of subculture of science fiction and fantasy is tiny. Like, it's really small, because Booktube YA side of things is massive. I think classics and literary sort of people who talk about that, it's getting bigger. I think science fiction and fantasy is still pretty small, but it's definitely grown. But I would certainly say I was early to that bandwagon. Like, I think my channel has the success it has because I was one of the first people making videos about adult fantasy, and that was something that just wasn't on the internet. Like, people just didn't see it. So when they found my channel and they liked that stuff, they subscribed because they didn't have a choice. I was the only option available to them. So yeah, I think that definitely helped. And I love my little sub community of YouTube. It's so nice. I mean, all of Booktube's pretty nice, but yeah, this community is my fave, I must admit.
Yeah. What did I not expect? Well, I never expected to accidentally elbow the editor of Glamour, which was at a book event that I got invited to, which was based on this girl who was living like a vintage life for a year or something, and it was in London. It was amazing, and I was in the queue to go in, and I spun an elbow. I'm not sure why or how, and it elbowed her. So that definitely is one of the most memorable things. And cool little mentions from like authors, and like having authors as friends now. Like, I never imagined that I could have some of my favorite authors as friends, and like, well, Twitter followers, but friends.
Friends.
Close enough, right? we're basically best friends.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, just like the actual connections that you make is it's brilliant. I think it's like Booktube is such a nice community, because I think we all in our own way are sort of maybe feeling outsiders, so we're kind of like the bookie ones. So it's like, hey, we'll all be bookie ones together. That's nice.
Yeah, I think I didn't expect to go to so many events. I've not been to any for a while. The last event I went to was actually the Sprinkle of Glitter book launch, Louise Pentland book launch in 2017, it must have been, which was really fun. But going to things like that, the Penguin Christmas party, but I was too shy to be going to any of these things back then. Like, part of me wishes that those things were happening now, because I have the personality for it now. I'm able to network now. Back then, I would just stand in a corner and look really shy.
Yeah, that's very easy to do at these things as well, because like you don't feel qualified for it when you get invited to stuff that like a book launch and things. You're like, wait, me? Because like, what am I bringing to this? I don't know.
Especially when you were like a 17, 18, 19-year-old, and just stand there like, cool, what could I possibly have in common with this person? What do they want to speak to me about? That's why the Sprinkle of Glitter event was really nice, because she is exactly like she comes across on camera. She made sure she spoke to every single person, like personally. She didn't just speak to a group of people. She gave everyone a hug. Every single person she gave time to, and it was really, really nice. And then there was somebody else there who was just really rude and horrible. So yeah, I told them I really liked their book, and I said I'd given them.
I don't remember you telling me about this.
I'm
100% sure.
It can't have been that recently then. I thought it was 2017, but it must have been 2016.
It must have been whilst we were in uni, I feel like.
Yeah,
I'm sure
when I was in uni, because I was working.
Maybe it was just after, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, and I told them I'd given the book to my sister, because I thought their book was really important. And they turned around and went, "That's nice," and then turned around and walked off. And I was like, "Wow, wow,
Thanks.
wow."
But confidence.
Yikes.
And ever since then, I've just, not like that person.
It's fair.
Don't blame her. Don't blame her.
So yeah, but that's another thing that I didn't really expect, was there to be people that rude in this community. Like, we're bookish people. Why are you rude?
It's like we're all massive nerds. You know, can't fight amongst ourselves. There's no chance.
I haven't met too many rude people, actually, thinking about it. I think in person people try and be nicer anyway, don't they? So usually. But I've had a few like mean comments, you know, from people who don't like my hair or what I've said about the book, something like that. But in general, I think it's a pretty nice community. There's always a few.
That's actually something I'm quite interested in, and I'm glad that we have at least one guy in the chat. Jack, the three of us, Charlie and Caitlin and me, have probably had a lot of comments about our appearance and what we're wearing and things like that. Do you feel you've had any of that?
Not like on the same level. I feel like the kind of comments are different. Like, I used to get comments saying that I looked weird, or I can't remember. There's one that I'm thinking of, and I can't remember exactly what they said, but they just said like, I look like I'm really young, but I sound old. And they were saying it in like a really negative way. And I didn't really expect people to be so negative when I was like 14 or 15. And like old people to be watching, I find it kind of a bit uncomfortable, I suppose. Like, I was just making videos to talk about books and to have a good time. And some people were just kind of unnecessary. Like, I did get people commenting on me and kind of trolls and things. There were also people in school that were leaving comments too, so I knew who some of them were, so I could track them down. But like, ones that right out more normal, and like, because I think when I started, it was kind of weird to talk to a camera in 2011, and then YouTube's become like a career for some people now. So then people started to find it a bit more normal or cool that I made videos, and they kind of respected me more for it. So over the years, I've had less negative comments. I've had a few, like, I know when I had the name Reading with Jack, my channel name, some people were kind of negative about that, which just seems insane. I remember someone saying it sounded like a kids' TV show, which I just thought was a bit stupid. Like, sorry.
I remember that.
Yeah, you remember, and there was all the drama. And obviously around that time, I did get quite a lot of mean comments. But like in general, like, I just didn't expect to get viewers. So even to get negative comments, at least they're still a viewer. They're still adding to the viewing figures. So
was this all the same person? Was this all when that the positivity?
Well, yeah, there was all the drama in 2014, I think it was. So around that time, there were a few people coming over to kind of criticize me, but most of the negative comments were before then, to be honest.
Mm.
Like when I just started out and I didn't really know what I was doing and I was a bit weird. But I don't really get, like, I don't know, I think the comments are different, like, to what women might get, perhaps. I was younger, so I think the comments were, like, comment on my age more than anything.
I've got a video coming up soon where I'm going to be in a pirate costume, and I'm really scared of the comments I'm going to get, because everybody that I've mentioned this to recently has been quite excited by it, and I'm a bit like, oh, am I going to get I've had apparently a lot of people have a pirate kink, so
Great.
I'm sorry, can we circle back to that? What about the pirate? Is it the leg? The scurvy?
I'm not going to be
the eye patch?
Wow.
Oh, I could see an eye patch. Though. Cute.
Pretty much the only costume I could afford in uni, because I think most of us have been uni. Dress up night is a massive thing at uni. And whenever I wasn't spending a fortune on costumes like a lot of people were. Like, we had Ocean Wednesdays, which was the big fancy dress night, and people would spend hundreds of pounds on costumes. It was insane. I had like two. I had a pirate costume and a robber costume. And whenever I had the pirate costume on, that was when I'd have the most attention. So it must be a thing.
I mean, I was scared of you because you're a criminal. She's gonna steal my heart. No.
Yeah. Right. The last pre-arranged question, and by no means the last question, because we've got plenty of time for chit chat, is what do you think are the biggest changes in BookTube since you started? Now, we've got 10 years of changes to talk about, so this could go on for quite a while.
Oh God, I think the biggest change has become because YouTube has changed so much. The whole culture of the fact that YouTube has a culture now, and it has predetermined pathways for people, and it's very difficult to make your own way. So I feel like a lot of booktubers went similar pathways, and you sort of had to pick your route. Where you're going to go niche, where you're going to go YA, where you're going to go mainstream YA. Like it felt like you had to pick your destination, which I didn't. I was like, I just want to do my own stuff. But yeah, I can see how it kind of split, definitely.
I think in a way there's almost like a lot more pressure associated with BookTube now for people coming into it, because they have a kind of expectation of like, this is what you do on a BookTube channel. I've seen it hundreds of times. And because there are so many people making stuff now, like, yes, there is massive diversity in BookTube, but there's also a lot of similar things that you'll see on people's channels kind of consistently across whoever's making the videos. So like hauls and TBRs and wrap-ups and things like that. You know, it's kind of become almost like its own standard language of stuff that you would probably see on a BookTube channel. And I think like when we started, that wasn't necessarily a thing. Even like a lot of people would maybe show off their books every now and then, but they wouldn't necessarily wrap up every month or things like that. And now there's a lot of tags around that people do, and like starting out on BookTube, there's like BookTube newbie tags and things. A lot of these things were created sort of since we started, so there was no expectation for you and your channel. And I think a lot of people kind of come into it putting pressure on themselves now to fit into a niche, or to have a certain production value or upload on certain days. And I don't think any of that's necessary at all, because I've been doing it for like 7 years and I have no upload schedule, and I've never ever had one, and I've never got a problem from it. So I think it's easy to say when you've been doing it for so long, like, just do it for you. But I think a lot of people maybe have misconceptions nowadays about like potentially getting rich and famous from it, which we know doesn't happen. And, you know, there's a lot of preconceived ideas that I think are now around that weren't around before.
That thing about pressure, like because I've been kind of on and off with YouTube for the last few years, and like I remember when I started Booktube, I didn't, not that I didn't care, but I just kind of put the camera up, filmed, and just see what happened. Whereas like now, whenever I try to come back to YouTube, I feel like I have to be really like professional. I have to have really good lighting and all that kind of stuff, which I don't have. But I just feel like there's a certain pressure to be a certain way, particularly like because I've been a booktuber, like we all have for such a long time. I feel like people kind of expect you to be a certain level or to be really insightful all the time or really profound. And like that's not what it is sometimes. And like when I started in the day, there was no expectations or pressure. Obviously, the community's got a lot bigger as well. So it is more diverse, which is good. You can search around for all different kinds of books now. Then it's sometimes kind of difficult to know, like I read like a wide variety of books. And it's kind of hard to know if I should just focus on a certain kind of book because, you know, not every subscriber will be interested in every kind of book I read, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I don't really know if I'm making sense.
Yeah.
Well, you are, yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think it's got a lot bigger and a lot more diverse. Yeah.
Going through my old channel earlier, I realised how many tags we did. Now, I know tags are still like a huge thing and there's always a new tag, but literally every other video I did was a tag. And then rewatching them, realising how they were all the same question, just asked in a different way. So I was watching, it was like Jack was watching one that you made, the Break the Spines tag, which was just another version of like every other tag that was out there. You just ask the same questions in a different order or with a different question paired into it. But we loved them, and they got a lot of views. And I think I tagged Charlie. Mine did. And Charlie and Jack got tagged in every single video I ever made, apparently. Yeah.
And I always used to think like you have to make tags, like to kind of get your name out there. So like every time I made tags, I used to get new subscribers. So I thought, well, let's just try and attract some new viewers. And obviously, I don't really care about the views right now, but like that was definitely a thing at the time. Like tags were just like a weekly video. Like you had to do a tag every week. All the questions were kind of similar, but you still had to do them. I was always talking about the same kind of books in the tags as well. And I used to be really aware that I was, but I felt like I still had to make the videos. So I just talked about the Hunger Games in every single video because that always related to a tag question. And it was always the same books again and again, which is fine, like, but it felt very repetitive and not very original. Like I felt like I'd always said the same before in a previous video. So I definitely agree with that point.
Yeah, I'm looking back on my channel. I did not do many tags. I clearly missed this one out. I know I did tags when we were in uni together, Charlotte, because like we did some together. I definitely remember doing some then, and I've got some on my channel, but I really haven't got many. I think because, like you all said, you end up talking about the same stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm so bored of this. Like, I cannot face doing another tag. If one comes along every now and then and it's like something new and something actually different, then I think it's fair enough jumping on that and getting on with doing your own version if you've got something kind of to contribute. And I mean, if I did the tags that I did back then, now I'd probably have very different answers for a lot of things. But yeah, I think it gets a bit monotonous. But I do think you need some content like that on your channel a little bit to mix it up, because it's nice for people watching you to actually get more of an insight. So my channel was mostly for a long time book reviews, which are the worst performing videos on Booktube. Like you would think it's a good video, but it's not. People don't often care because they'll either not watch it because they haven't read the book, or they will watch it but they won't necessarily watch all of it if you've got spoilers, or you know, if they've read the book, maybe they won't watch it because they know what happens. So it's like they always perform badly. So I think kind of filling out your channel with other stuff was a big factor in that. And obviously some people's reading speeds are much quicker than others. So some people 4 books a month is great, and other people like 25 books a month is great. So you could end up with such different levels of what you can create, and having tags as something to fall back on was an easy idea to jump in with, I think. So it gave everyone the freedom to do something different that wasn't like, this is what I've been reading. No.
You've actually picked out 2 things that I wanted to talk about, and that was the book reviews and how they've changed. So does anybody else find that actually book reviews are bigger now because they've been remarketed as reading vlogs? This is something that I've noticed.
Yeah, I haven't really done many reading vlogs because I feel like I'm pretty boring. I just sit with my book. Like, what am I supposed to say? But I have seen them and I have watched other people doing them. So I think you're right in that respect.
I find that, yes, reviews don't get a lot of views anymore. And I don't know if they ever did. You'd get the odd massive release that would get a lot of views if you were like the first 1 or 2 that made that video. But I feel like they always gain views long term. People would still watch them, even if you recorded it 3 years ago, you would still get a comment on that. I don't know if that's just me, but that's
I've noticed that as well. True.
Yeah.
So I get people
like when I go to like the YouTube like metrics thing, and it's like the top views, the top most viewed videos that day, it's always book reviews that I did like 4 or 5 years ago. So I think people do search them. It's kind of like a longer term thing that people keep searching for. Whereas like some of the videos are more short term, so they get like loads of views all in one go, but then 2 years later no one cares about them. So and book review videos are actually the best ones to do. I find them the most enjoyable. I can actually think about the book in a lot of depth and hopefully help people. So it always kind of disappoints me that they get the least views, because they're the best ones that I like doing.
And I think that's what
it's just how it is. Book hauls always get the most views, and they're the videos that I hate making. Because with book hauls, like you've not even read the book, so you can't really say much.
I know, but I
like watching them, but I feel like I can't really contribute anything.
I know what you mean. I have to sit there and do that thing where like I read the entire blurb and then I face camera and I'm like, so this is what it's about. And I'm like, right, memorize all the names, memorize all the places. Because I have no idea what it actually is about. I picked it up and it arrived and now it's here.
It baffles me when people do like half-hour-long videos about like book hauls, because obviously a lot of people still buy a lot of books, whereas I feel like I don't buy as many anymore. So my book hauls are still quite short. But I've kind of introduced a new rule where I do a book haul every 5 books that I get, because then I still remember what they're about, why I bought it. Otherwise, I end up with a pile of books and I'm like, I was interested in that when I bought it. What is it about? So I've kind of been doing that. But that leads me on to the next point, which is video lengths. How long were videos when you started? Because I'm rewatching mine and nothing was over 5 minutes.
Yeah. I was always like, when I was watching videos, it was a very short, sharp cuts. I get the information, no ums, no ahs, no personality. You get the information, which is like a technique, but it's I don't know why there was so much pressure to be short videos. I guess retaining that like your attention, but I think now, you know, people are streaming for hours. I mean, we're streaming for hours and hours. I think people are more open to like long form discussions, and whereas before I think it was a bit scary having those long videos or commitment, whereas now people is just more open to it.
So Amber's just posted, I blame Hank Green, and this was what I was getting at. So Hank Green, back in about 2011, 2012, posted a video about the YouTube algorithm, and basically explaining how it would only promote videos under 5 minutes. And so that's the reason why your videos had to be so short. You had to make them quick, short, snappy, to get them spread, whereas now it's gone the other way, and I think the algorithm picks up videos that are longer than 15 minutes. But I just can't, and maybe it's because I'm a literature student and we have to be concise and not babble. I can't babble. I can't sit in front of a camera now and do a half-hour long video. It's just not a thing I'm capable of. Oh, we've lost Jack.
Jack,
Oh,
no.
hopefully he'll come back.
I'll never let go, Jack.
Oh. I think I think I'm just a very different booktuber from a lot of booktubers, because I have always made very long videos. I think my first video was 3 minutes, mainly because I didn't quite know how to work my webcam and filming, so that was more an equipment failure than anything. But if I look back at like other videos that I've done in sort of the very early years of my channel, they're all about 15, 20, 25 minutes long. So and I still make videos that are about 15 minutes long quite often, because I think part of it's fantasy. Like fantasy books you can talk about for a while because they're massive. So that is definitely a factor. And I tend to find nowadays, because reviews are one of those videos that doesn't necessarily do as well if you just have one book that you're talking about, I tend to group books together a bit more. So like I'll read maybe 5 or 6 books, and then I'll pick out a few that have something that I can link them by, even if that's really tenuous, like they all have blue on the cover, or they all have, you know, some sort of setting that is similar, something like that. And I'll do like a joint book review, and that way I get the longer video that I like personally making and watching, but I also get people watching reviews which don't do as well on their own. But saying that, I was just having a look through my stats on YouTube, because I always find this really interesting, like what videos everyone has that is sort of the most viewed on your channel over the whole time that you've been doing it. And looking at that, it's quite interesting, I think, because some of the ones that are on there are actually book reviews, but they're for very famous books. Like 1984 is one of my top viewed videos, which is just insane. But then there's things like Wheel of Time series, which is a massive epic fantasy. Gardens of the Moon, also a massive epic fantasy. Sanderson books, things like that. Game of Thrones, all those books that are like mainstream fantasy, like other people might have heard of them. So I think those sorts of things can do very well as a book review.
Because I think now book reviews obviously still get views. I'm thinking in particular the first people to have posted The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes yesterday was crazy, and their views just skyrocketed. So I think big releases like that still get the thing. I think on my first channel, the best video I ever had in terms of views was Chris Colfer's Land of Stories book review. Yeah, he was in Glee, so he was quite popular. That fan base all wanted to know about his book, and it was very unheard of. Booktube was obviously still quite new at the time, and then I think series reviews came quite popular later on. So it was worth reading a whole series before talking about any of them, and then just doing a review. Charlie, obviously your 50 Shades of Grey one.
I was just looking and seeing like that one, Paper Towns by John Green, and then like a few vlogs, and then Fahrenheit 451. I do feel like some of them are definitely people watching book reviews to get an idea of what the book is about. So
100%.
Because I've done it. I've read a book review, not to them, but to be like, oh yeah, I totally read that book. And then yeah, it's really cool. It's about vampires, you know, to impress a friend. But like, yeah, there's definitely some people asking essay questions in the comment section of some of my videos.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, I do not remember any of these books. My head does not remember any of that. I'm so sorry. You're gonna have to read it yourself.
So I think we can keep talking about this, to be fair. We've got a few people in the comments still, so if anybody in the comments wants to ask a few questions, go ahead. Some of you have been around for a really long time, others of you have said you're quite new to Booktube. So any questions, pop them in there while we keep talking and we can come to them. Any other changes that you think there were in BookTube? I know I definitely had a longer list than what we've talked about.
There's so many. I think it has completely changed. But also I think certain channels haven't. Like there are certain channels that I can go to and I know I'm going to get what content I expect and want from them. So like SFF 180 is one of those channels where like every week he does a mailbag, and that's something that you always see. And certain other channels have like a weekly haul or a weekly update or things like that, which I think is quite nice to see occasionally. But personally, I just have no schedule. I think it works better on the YouTube algorithm if you do have some sort of schedule, because it tends to kind of recognize that. But I'm useless at schedules, so it doesn't work.
Same.
There are definitely times of the day when I upload that I'm going to do better. And I know part of that's like, you could argue, yeah, well, they're on longer, so you are going to see a difference if you post a video at 9 a.m. instead of 5 p.m. But then at the same time, I think they do garner more views long term as well if I post them
I've never
earlier.
really thought about that. I tend to post my reviews at 6 a.m. because I want them to go up as I get up, and then I want to see all the comments.
You get up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, every day.
I get up at 5:30.
You've got a child.
I've been at one up.
It's true. I've got him.
I've been getting up 3 minutes before I have to log onto my work computer lately.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'm not getting to sleep until a lot later though. What about the content people make then? Obviously, we've talked about the reviews and book hauls and scheduling, but do you think it feels different watching people? Do you think the quality, like people saying equipment, do you think that's made an actual difference in terms of quality of content as well as quality of visuals?
I think so for some, because I think now that it is a career that people can kind of have as a side project or, you know, something a bit more major, there's definitely people coming into it who are like prepared, you know, and they've got a logo and they've got some channel art and they've got the equipment to make it really swish. They have the editing skills. And like you can see when you go to a channel that's kind of set up and prepared and they've just started out, you're like, whoa, you have put the effort in behind the scenes. But I don't know if that necessarily makes their video, like the content of the video, better. It makes their channel more swish, but I don't know if it changes who you are. And for me, like BookTube is always personality related. If you don't have, you know, the sort of personality that can gel with that person, it doesn't matter how good their review is, you're not going to watch their channel. So, you know, I think it's always going to be personality based rather than based on channel graphics. Although I think those are cool things, and like I've just got my own cool graphics, so I'm finally there after 7 years.
So do you think one of the things that we always say as advice to new booktubers is that you don't need the good quality camera, you don't need to have it that good? Do you think that is actually useful advice? Like, would you watch somebody if their content was amazing, they were talking really well, but would you have watched them if it was filmed on a potato?
Yeah, I still would.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think for me there has to be a level of like quality. Like I can't watch someone who's filming on, you know, in a dark room in like curtains drawn with a webcam, because you've made no effort. If you've only got a webcam, my suggestion would be to set up by a window or something, you know, like at least put in that amount of effort, because otherwise you're not going to get views. Like people won't.
You don't want to make
that.
it look like a ransom letter or something.
No.
we don't want to have to call the police.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say you need to go out and buy equipment. Definitely not. I film on my phone. I've filmed on my phone for the entire time that I have had a YouTube channel. So you don't need a fancy camera. If you want to invest later on, you know, and get some fancy equipment, fair enough. But I would say just start off doing it simple. And then if you like it and you love it and you find it something that you're passionate about, then think about upgrading if you want to. But I mean, the main things I think are important is you need a decent-ish camera so that we can at least see the book you're talking about, and you need a decent-ish microphone so we can hear what you're saying. Like, those are two really important things. Other than that, I don't think the rest of it's important.
Somebody's just made quite an interesting comment, and I think might be worth talking about, is I've noticed people who have bookshelves behind them usually have more subscribers.
You guys are all doing it right.
I've
got some. Look, they're over there. I promise, I'm a booktuber.
I mean, do we think that's the case? Because I'm just thinking of Cindy, and she doesn't own books, and she's skyrocketed in recent
I guess it depends. It's nice on a thumbnail, isn't it, to see books behind. But I wouldn't say I wouldn't click on someone's video if they didn't have books behind them. So I guess it's probably seeing it in all your subscriptions, instantly it's a book video if there's a bookshelf behind, rather than a cooking video or anything else. So it has that instant kind of attracting your eye, but I don't think it's necessary. I definitely watch channels that don't feature their bookshelf behind them all the time, and maybe sometimes don't have any, like you say.
Yeah, because one of my big things now that I'm house hunting is lighting. And I'm not, like, at the minute I've got a really big room, which is great, but it's in a house share, and the one window I have is like right in front of me now, and it's tiny. So there's never any lighting. My bookshelves are behind me, are in the worst possible place they could be. And I am making that conscious decision when I'm house hunting at the minute to find somewhere that has lighting, so that when I film my videos I have good lighting, there's a good place to put the bookshelves, there's good angles.
No, that's totally fair. I did the exact same thing with this house. When we bought this house and I found this room, I was like, this is the room for the books. Like, that's where they're going to live, because there's a nice big window that faces south and the sun's going to be on it. It's definitely a consideration, but I would not have worried about that when I started my channel. And in fact, when I started my channel and I was in uni, I didn't have books all over the place, because we had these tiny little cubby holes that you could fit books in, and like you could fit maybe 5 in there, and that was it. And they were above the desk, so I would have had to film like awkwardly sort of sitting by my desk and sort of angle up, and it wasn't going to work. So I think a lot of my videos when I started didn't have bookshelves behind me.
Jack's gone again. We'll just add it. Every time he comes and goes, we'll just re-add him. But I was in the cheap, nasty halls at uni, but we also had like the horrible, manky shelves. And I had a bright, like salmon desk. It was disgusting. But I purposefully bought a bookshelf to film at uni, because I thought this room is disgusting. It was vile. I hated it. The best flat I ever had in terms of lighting and bookshelf space was also the worst place I ever lived. So we have a couple of comments coming in on the chat, but we have one that Shannon sent me yesterday, which was, what are your least favourite and favourite things that have changed about BookTube? So obviously we've talked about the things that have changed, but which of those do you think are good? Which of those do you think are bad? She wants me to spill the tea on something I told her about, but I'm not going to do it on a live stream. Sorry, Shannon.
I don't know about bad, but good, I think, is definitely, like, a lot of things that are good have come from it. I think there's a lot more sort of recognition for BookTube now as a kind of viable thing that publishers and authors respect and are interested in working with, which is great news, because when BookTube started, it was very much a blogger world, and blogs were the only way to get any recognition. You would never see booktubers quoted anywhere on books or anywhere on anything. It just wasn't respected in the way that it is now, I think. And yeah, that's partly to do with YouTube kind of evolving as well, and influencers becoming a thing. So I think that's a positive. I also think that the amount of books that we've talked about over the entire time of BookTube is just exponential and amazing, that there's so many things you can discover now. from everyone. There's so much diversity out there and so many readathons and like gatherings and things like that, which never used to happen, or if they did, it was a very, very small niche of the internet, like a blogger maybe doing a meetup. And I think there's definitely massive amount of like connections and friendships that have been formed through Booktube. So all of that for me is probably the highlight, that it's a recognizable thing now and something that you can tell your friends and be like proud of, instead of ashamed or worried that you're going to get picked on. You know, if you turn around to your friend and they're like, oh, how many subscribers have you got to your channel? And you're like, well, because I've been doing it so long, I actually have more than 2. So, you know, that's always good. I don't know about least favorite though. That's tricky. I need to have a think on that.
I think what you were saying about readathons is quite interesting as well, because readathons have definitely changed and gotten so much more creative.
The Owl readathon is literally like, I can't believe it. Like every time,
effort into that.
I'm always in awe.
There's props and everything. It's fantastic. But
it's amazing.
The fact that they've become more like games now and challenges rather than just a list of prompts, read a book about this, read a book about that. The fact that, like you were saying about the Owls readathon, a lot of it's got that old school vibe with it's prompts, but the way they've been incorporated into this bigger picture is fantastic. There's the Make Your Own Myth Take readathon happening next month. That's literally an adventure. You have to set a strict TBR and follow it. You can't deviate. Unless you get to a certain point, then you can only go onto a certain different path. And the bookie trials that have happened. And there's so many readathons now that are just much more creative and inventive. And I'm not going to lie, I have to watch those videos a few times to figure out what the hell I've got to do.
I know, you've got to like, sit there and make a list. If you know that you've got to get a notepad, it's going to be a good readathon. That's as far. If you've got to sit there and work out, right, which books are going to fit, I think it's fun. But I think that's also like a real credit to these people creating readathons. If like people are sitting there and they're really taking time with your video to figure out what they want to do. And you know, I've never done a readathon that I've designed, but I've participated in loads, and I just think it's so much fun. It gives you a real sense of like being part of something bigger, which is nice. And that's kind of what Booktube is about, but it's a more immediate thing with readathons. And I think live shows as well is a thing that we didn't used to have. Live shows when I started, that definitely wasn't something that happened very often. And then that went through a phase of just starting to really get big.
Yeah, so I think that live shows as in general went through a phase, because when Google Hangouts came in, there were a lot of live shows, and then obviously Google Hangouts disappeared at some point, and then it took a while for people to find other ways of doing it, I think. So yeah, there's been a lot of live shows. Lockdown has been good for live shows, actually.
Yeah, like online conventions and stuff as well. I've been amazed.
I'm still a bit annoyed that the online conventions have still been like, there's a lot more diversity, but then not being utilized for the online conventions.
Well, I don't know which ones you're talking about. I've only seen one. So I'm clearly out the loop.
I'm talking about a couple of the big American ones that are like, you must be from the US, and it's like, why? You're online and sitting in your bedroom.
No, that makes no sense. I watched a sci-fi and fantasy one, of course, which is called QuaranCon. I think there's still videos up, but that had quite a decent bit of diversity across, because it's a self-published dominated, I would say, area. So there was definitely a lot of more diversity than I expected. Let's put it that way. It wasn't a lot, but it was more than I expected. So that was nice to see. But yeah, I agree. Why, if you're online, could there not be more diversity?
Cool. So that's all the questions that we had pre-arranged. Has everybody got a little bit more time, because there are a couple of questions coming in? Yeah. Charlie,
yeah.
All right.
I think so. I think so. There's been no bursting through the door for at least a couple of minutes, but I am going to go and turn my light on because it's getting a bit
Yeah, I've had to do the same.
The sun is going down on me.
Okay, so the people watching, this is your time to come and give us questions. We've got one here. What is your favourite recent booktube trends? I love TBR challenges.
Recent booktube trend.
See, I am so out the loop on booktube. I feel like the last time I was on there, I was like, I don't know. I'm too old to remember.
Yeah, Charlie, when did you last even make a video? Why are you here?
You didn't even go here.
I should make one for booktube retirees, and that's the one you should be.
Oh, honestly, also APs, mate. Honestly, nearly 30. Jesus. But I do really want to come back, and I think this has definitely spurred me on to come back, because I think after a while of being out of it, you forget how much you really enjoyed it, and I think this has definitely reminded me and sort of been like, I love doing this. Like, it's so cool, like, to talk on the internet about books. Like,
I've had to force myself to love it again. I definitely had 2 years where I wanted to be making things, but I wasn't enjoying it no matter what I did. And I think it's been the last 3 or 4 months that I've started to really love it again. Like, I actually enjoy sitting down and filming. I actually enjoy the editing process and talking to people again. So yeah. Come back. This is a good time to come back.
I think in terms of trends, sorry, because my internet keeps going weird. I think I keep like disappearing. Sorry. Like, I don't know if reading vlogs are a trend, but they were never a thing when I started. They seem to have become like massive now, and everyone seems to have like a different approach, because I've seen some where people just kind of film themselves while they're actually reading, like read-alongs, and then some people do it more like a book review, where they kind of review the book as they go. That's something that I'm going to try out on my channel actually this week. I think I've been filming a little reading vlog, and it's just a completely like new kind of video that I'd never seen before. They seem really fun because they're just easy to film. Like, if you've not got much time, you can just film like 2 minutes a day, and by the end of the week that's like 14 or 15 minutes long. So they're quite good for convenience, like if you're busy. I don't know if it's a trend, it's not like a challenge, but they're definitely different kinds of videos that I've not seen recently. That I hadn't seen when I started initially, sorry.
I'm trying to think of some, and I should have made notes, but I didn't. But Emma made a video recently. I don't know whether she did it on Book Break or she did it on her own Drinking by Myself. She did a video about booktube trends, and I've forgotten everything that was mentioned in it. But something I've seen a couple of times this week is book recommendations for your Animal Crossing villagers. I don't know if any of you play Animal Crossing, but
I used to be obsessed with that.
Well, yeah, the new game's come out and it's going haywire. I think Leanne from Literary Diversions, I can never say her channel name, was the first one to make it. And I've seen so many people copy it since then. And it's such a fun video to just sit and watch them recommend books for these fake characters.
Oh, I love that.
It's fantastic.
Oh, I'm obsessed with that.
I'm sat here thinking, do I do it? But also at the same time, I hate all of my villagers. I just keep
Give them terrible books. This is your punishment.
Yeah, I keep getting the grumpy old men characters that I don't invite in, and I just keep thinking,
story of your life.
I'm going to recommend you Kerouac and Salinger, really miserable middle-aged white men who write boring books.
You can read Morrissey's autobiography, and that's it.
Yeah, it'll take you so long to read it. I'll never see you again.
I don't think I really know too many trends thinking about it, but one thing I've been enjoying recently is, because lockdown has been a bit shit for everyone, there's been lots of like comfort read videos coming out, which I've very much enjoyed, because I think it kind of gets people to talk about like old favorites and things that they maybe haven't mentioned on their channel for a while, because with like favorites, you go through this phase of recommending it all the time, and then it comes to an end where you can't keep recommending just that same book. So it's nice to have like a comfort reads thing where everyone can just go back to all those lovely ones and recommend them. So I've definitely picked up loads of books recently because of everyone's videos.
I think there's a lot of nostalgia on there as well at the minute, because we've just got a new Hunger Games book. We're getting a new Twilight book.
This is a weird time.
It's
like
a very weird. It just feels almost like we've gone, and maybe this is why I'm enjoying it more at the minute. It just feels like we've kind of gone back to the old days.
Yeah.
Reading the same things and getting excited about things we were excited about as kids, and all the nostalgic part. I mean,
I think we're all back to being teenagers stuck in our bedrooms, like reading books and talking to our friends on the laptop. Like, this is how I spent my teenage years.
It's
no
very
different.
true.
No permission.
It really reminds me of being in uni this lockdown. I'm like, I'm stuck at home. There's nothing to do. Let's film some videos.
Yeah.
Except this time, Boris Johnson's our dad.
Oh, God.
Telling us we're not allowed.
No.
I mean, he might be.
Terrible.
He's got. I think, is there any more questions from anybody?
I don't know.
But I don't think there is. But we've gone on for quite a while anyway. Shall we end with some recommendations?
Oh, no.
Oh, a recommendation and a currently reading.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, oh no.
Let me go on Goodreads.
I'm gonna.
It's the only way I can recommend anything, because I forget everything I read instantly.
I can start if you want.
Go
I
ahead.
finished reading a book today. So it's kind of a disturbing book. I already had it prepared at the side. So it's called The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. I think it's kind of a
I
quite
have
famous
that one.
book. I've been reading it for the last few days. It is really disturbing and difficult to read. So I would just warn people about that. It's about slavery and slaves trying to escape through this underground railroad, which was like a sort of series of secret routes that they would take to escape from different states of America. So they start in the south of the America, and then they move further north to free states where slavery was illegal. It's really moving and difficult to read, but I really liked it. I've been filming reading vlogs for this over the week, and it's definitely one I'd recommend. It had like a real impact. Like, it was always on my mind when I wasn't even reading it. Like, when I was working and stuff, I was still thinking about it. So it really kind of moved me quite a lot. So if anyone's interested in historical fiction, like, definitely read this. Like, it's a good book. Yeah, that's my recommendation.
Good recommendation.
And did you say you just finished that today, so you haven't got a currently reading?
Yeah. Well,
what are you going to read next then?
I'm going to read next. I have that prepared because I'm organised.
You can tell you've been doing Booktube a while.
I just have the books like piled up at the side. Obviously, this was about slavery and plantation slavery. So I'm thinking of continuing with that theme and kind of doing a comparison with Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. And this was a book that I was planning to read last year, and I never got around to it. And I just thought they're kind of similar, so may as well continue with it. I'm not sure what, I'm not too sure exactly what this one's about, but I know it's about slaves again and different race relations and that kind of thing. I honestly, to be honest, I'm not expecting it to be as good as The Underground Railroad. I just have a feeling, but we'll have to see. It could be even better. So I think this is the next read that I'll probably start tomorrow. So that's kind of my currently reading, I suppose.
Fab. I've got Homegoing on my TBR. So I need to get one soon.
Well, shall I go? Because
mine's
got like a weird story with it as well.
Oh. Okay,
so recommendation. Because I've been reading a lot of like non-fiction books at the moment. I'm going through it's not a phase, Mum. It's not a phase of like witchy stuff and just like true crime and I'm just finding little niches that I'm enjoying. So the my recommendation is definitely Witches, Sluts and Feminists by Kristen J. Solly. One day I'll actually prepare and then see how it's actually pronounced. Today's not the day, but one day. And that's really great, especially if you're interested in anything like that. And fun thing that I'm currently reading Helter Skelter, and it was just on my side and it's set itself on fire.
Oh wow.
No.
Oh, you got a candle burning?
There is a candle burning, but it's I don't know whether you can see it. It's like a tea light down there, and it was up there.
Well, it's a good job that you picked it up.
I may have accidentally summoned Charles Manson. Sorry, guys.
Well, at least it's in
Yeah.
your neck of the woods and not mine.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll be fine. Charlie's get along great, so you know he's my namesake. We're best mates.
Get Louis to
He's a horrible person. I do not condone him. Weird stuff like that happens to me all the time. So.
I was looking through what I'd been reading on Goodreads, and I realised that I have become very critical because I haven't rated very much highly. I think when I started BookTube, I was very generous with my ratings, and now I'm a lot less generous. So my 4 stars is probably really good still, and 3 stars is still good. But I was looking back to the last ones that I saw 5-star that weren't rereads. So the book I'd recommend is The Lightning Struck Heart by TJ Klune, which I think it's a self-published book, and I actually audiobooked it, and it's a fantasy, but it's the horniest fantasy you will ever read, done in a really cool way. The characters are just so fun. There is a unicorn who doesn't have a horn, who is very gay, called Gary. He's my favorite character. It's honestly like one of my new time favorite authors. I absolutely love his stuff, and I'm currently reading the second one in that series, which is really good as well. The humor is definitely acquired, and it is certainly not a PG book, because they are very horny, as I say. But it's great. The adventure's really fun. The story's really cute, as well as being very horny. And I would highly recommend it if you guys are looking for something like that. Erotic
I'm sold.
fantasy. Yeah, I mean, if you listen to the sample on Audible, you'll know instantly if it's for you, because honestly, it was so good. And the narrator is my new favorite narrator ever, because I don't know, like Steve and I keep going on, well, before lockdown we kept going on long drives up to Chester, where his family's from, and every time we went up there we were like, right, put on the audiobook, and we were just in bits of laughter over this audiobook, which never happens to me, but honestly I was crying laughing, and I was just like, don't open the window, we can't have everyone else hearing what we're listening to. It's definitely naughty. So I would recommend that. In terms of what I'm currently reading loads of stuff because I read multiple books at once. So I'm reading that. I'm also reading a sequel to another self-published series, which I'm really enjoying, by Ian Gregoire, and quite a few other things. I won't go into everything I'm reading. If you want, you can go on my channel and see. One day I'll get a review for them up.
Somebody's asked what that book was again, Caitlin, that you recommended.
It's TJ Klune, and it's The Lightning Struck Heart by TJ Klune. So,
is it going to make me miss the fella I'm seeing even more because I haven't seen him for like 8 weeks?
I mean, possibly, but I forgot to say as well, like, I think the whole cast except one character is LGBT, so it's also really good on that.
Oh,
so
I
reckon,
hell yeah,
it's very good.
Okay, so my book that I'm currently reading is The Raven Boys by Ben.
Old school.
Throwing it back to old school.
Yeah,
I've had this out of the library about 5 times, like since it came out in 2012.
You love it so much.
I don't know why. I never ever. Well, no, I've never read it before. I just never got around to it, and it's like you said, old school booktube. It was probably one of the first series that was coming out as like on booktube, if that makes sense. I'm actually really enjoying it. I thought maybe I'd gone past the YA fantasy kind of phase, but I'm still really enjoying it. And my recommendation is Normal People by Sally Rooney, which I haven't shut up about for the last, 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm reading it. I'm currently reading it as well, and I've already read it this month. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You said you'd rewatched the show loads of times too, though. You're just having a moment.
I might be putting the TV show on when I get up for work, and then because it's only 6 hours to watch the whole show, it tends to be by the time I finish work. So I've lost count of how many times I've actually watched it.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's intense.
This is what I do with TV, though. Like, I always have these comfort TV shows. I don't watch a lot of shows.
Fair enough.
If I watch something, I binge watch it. Like, if I'm having a shit day, I'll watch the whole series of Stranger Things.
Fair.
Drag Race.
Oh, yeah.
Every time Drag Race.
Now it stresses me out too much if I'm having a bad day.
Oh, I've been watching
Well, I already know how it
Garden
finishes.
show on Netflix recently.
Is that really good? It looks awesome.
It's like Bake Off, but for gardens. I was like, brilliant, I'm sold.
What show is that?
Oh my
It's
god, that
called,
sounds so good.
I think it's called The Big Flower Fight. It's on Netflix. There's a whole season. It's very binge-worthy. They have to create sculptures using plants. It's great.
Wow.
It's a nice comfort watch.
Oh, excellent. That was all the questions then. So we'll wrap this up. We did an hour and a half, so we've done quite well, actually.
Yeah.
I will be uploading this video onto my channel, so I'll leave the links to all these guys in the description of that. But it's, again, their names are on the screen anyway. CharleyReads, Terms and Travel, and Kitty G. Go check them out. I'm sure you're already watching them anyway. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I'll be doing a Northern Booktubers live show pretty soon. So keep an eye out on my channel for that. All right. Should we say bye?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.